think this is on. Okay, hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining me here on my debut channel of my. Okay, yeah, they heard it already. Okay, anyway, this is my new channel, MindofAK. I'm glad you guys are here. My name is AK Wright. I am a writing sculptor. Sometimes I go by a sculpting writer, or other stuff, whatevs. But I do want to thank you all for being here and joining me on my new venture here on YouTube. This will be where I start to share a lot of my original content, whether it's short stories, whether it's my sculpting. I'm basically here to help keep you all entertained, hopefully keep you guys energized and want to help me on this. So today we're doing a new thing. It's called a sculpting makeover. And basically this is what I am. Not what I am. Hold on, let me zoom out. Okay, there we go. So here's my agenda today. This standard bowl I got at Family Dollar, I am going to try to turn into this. Yeah, pretty crazy. But what isn't crazy is if you guys could like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and let's just get going. So I want to start off right off the bat. This is a major learning curve for me. I've not really done anything like this as far as this, so I know this is out of frame and it's very straight and vertical. I apologize for that. In future videos I will make sure it works swimmingly, but this is just a shot of all the things I'm going to use today if you want to follow along. Obviously the bowl, super soapy ultralight and original, both blends, aluminum foil, there's going to be some oven baked clay, armature wire for sure. You're also going to need a set of tweezers and also cutters and then some eyeballs. There you go. Now the first thing I'm going to start doing, this is literally my prep work for any type of sculpture that I make, whether it's one that I put a base on or if it's freestanding, I always start with aluminum foil. Aluminum foil is a lifesaver when it comes to making any form of sculpture. That's, again, whether it's a freestanding one that's going to need to be attached to a base, you will save a lot of clay, and also it's a very good base for structure, so that way things don't fall apart, become brittle, anything like that. So as you can see on the video, what I'm doing is I'm actually shaping where I'm going to put the bowl, and I'm testing the bowl out right now. I'm trying to make, in my head, I'm going to make something what I think I'm going to call a SeaBeast. There's probably a more generic name I can think of. Give me time, I'll get the generic names out there. So I want it to be somewhat, have two little stubby legs, a couple tentacles on him, eyes that are going to just free hang, and obviously the bowl's going to be the base of the mouth and things of that. So what I'm doing is I have my foil shaped, and I'm just putting the bowl in place just to test it. And what I'm going to start to do now, this is what's called oven baked clay adhesive. It has went by a name in the past, which was called Baking Bond. The company recently changed it last year. A lot of us are depressed about that, but what it is good for is it's essentially a glue that you can use to attach clay and not have it slide off, or it basically adheres to it well. It's very safe to use in an oven. I've used it plenty of times. So what I'm doing is putting all of this over the ceramic, and it basically makes the ultralight, which you'll see me pulling apart here, it makes it stick so it doesn't slide everywhere. Ultralight is really good about attaching to armature wire and even the foil, but sometimes if it's in little pieces or if it's not as clearly shaped like I just showed you there, and this is me actually getting more because I definitely did have enough, so open up a new pack. This is really fun because a brand new pack of ultralight, it feels like you're playing with a marshmallow. It's very stress relieving. So this is me actually attaching all of the ultralight that I have to my base, and this process can take a little bit, but it's no rush. There is no race here. Take your time. If you are following along or if you want to do something like this can take a little bit of time depending on how big your piece is. Admittedly, this is probably going to be one of the larger pieces that I actually do on YouTube, and I wanted to just start out guns blazing. I've had this thought in my head for a while, and I definitely am excited to share it with you guys, and also for other things too. Whenever I can get the community channel going, or community tab going on here, I definitely want to open up for your feedback, things you want to see me make, other things you want to have in place. I definitely would like to do that. And right here, this is again me putting the ultralight on, and you'll see me here in a few moments. I'm actually putting the bowl in, and it's stuck. So now we're on to the next step. I want there to be eyes. So these are actually eyes that I made. They're just 20mm cabochons that I painted. And what we're doing here, like all of us are doing this, what I'm doing is I'm actually forming the eye tentacles, I guess I'll call them, that are going to attach to the base. So I'm just shaping them out so they're even. The main thing is, unless you want there to be somewhat abstract, you want to make sure that you're measuring things evenly and cutting it. And I'm just putting the wire in place, and I'm adding more ultralight so that way when it bakes in the oven, the wires have something that's sturdy so they won't droop or fall over. This is a step that's crucial later on when I go to put on the rest of the clay, and it's definitely something that will save you a lot of time. So this is what we're doing now. I want the eyes to attach obviously to this, so I'm just measuring where I want the eyes to go. I'm also adhering to the size of my oven so it's not too tall. And what I'm doing is making 2 balls of aluminum foil. Again, it's just standard aluminum foil. You can use any kind. My preferred is obviously Reynolds wrap. I don't get a sponsor for that. It's just the best for this type of sculpting. And I'm just measuring them out to make sure that they're going to actually stick to this. And you'll notice that I'm actually not putting ultralight on this. And there's a reason for that. Because just like Roman Reigns did to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, I'm going to smash these into place. And I actually don't want the ultralight to move around because it actually makes it more sturdy for the eyes to stick in. And because they're glass and they're painted, I don't want there to be any... Oh yeah, make sure you acknowledge your tribal chief as always. Moving forward, it actually makes it easier for the eyes to not droop or break or have any form of cracking. So once I get everything measured out, I'm just poking 2 holes in, and I'm going to put them on there like that. I'm going to test them both out, and once I get them to how I like, I am going to move on to doing a few more detailing in this step, and then it'll be time for the next step. I like where I'm at, and that's my happy dance. Now, one more thing too, with ultralight you do want to poke a hole somewhere that's not going to be noticeable. It just lets the air go out so that way it doesn't cause any cracking. Alright, so we are back, and while that is actually baking, this is one of the more tedious steps of my project today. I want this thing to have... Ooh, let me do that better. There we go. So I want this thing to have eons and rows of teeth. I don't even know if I said that correctly. I'm recording this late at night, so English is not good. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm actually forming out different sizes, dimensions of teeth for this thing to have. Like I said, I want this to be somewhat a sea creature, may live at the bottom of a trench. It probably is, you know, can go on land as well, but it's definitely a predator. So I'm shaping out a lot of teeth, and what I'm using, if you saw in the first shot, it's a brand that Sculpey makes. All the clay that I use for the most part is made by Sculpey. Again, I'm not sponsored. I don't even have an affiliation. It's just a brand that I've been using since I started. This is called Primo, and they have a blend which is called Translucent. I'll also be using the clay later on when I start that I'll show. It's again Super Sculpey Original. The main difference between the two is the original is a little bit more malleable and it's softer. So it's good to put on a sculpt. You do have to watch with detailing if you're holding one section of it that you just detailed and you're going to another side. What you just detailed could go off, you know, fall apart or droop, and you have to reattach it or redo whatever you just did. But Primo, whenever it bakes, it's very, very hard. It's really actually hard to break. And for teeth especially, whenever it does bake, they actually do look like standard teeth. They have a white blend that if you want them to look more human, you know, dentist, mini fresh teeth, they have that one. But for translucent, especially for creatures, it's really good stuff. And when I said tedious, I was not exaggerating. I made an insane amount of teeth, and shockingly, I didn't pre-measure anything. I didn't take into account how many I would need. I legit made enough teeth to fit this entire thing's mouth, which I'll get to when we get to that part. But this is me cutting an entire block of this, going over it, and all of that. And this is how they look when they're out the oven. So here's the thing, right out the oven. Yeah, it looks good. Do the knock test, make sure it's hardened, and we're good to go. And I'm just going to test the eyes just one more time, just to make sure that the wire didn't droop. That looks good to me. Alright, so here's the next step. Before I do anything else with this Super Sculpey Original, I had to do something else first. I had to put into this mouth. So what these are, same as the last blend, these are Primo, but they're different colored. And with Primo, they do come in different colors. This is alizarin crimson. Like I said, English no good tonight. This is alizarin crimson and black. And what I'm doing, just to get a dark, bloody look into it, I'm just blending both of these together. And then off to the side, which I don't have a shot of, I have what's called a pasta roller. You can literally put clay through it, and it blends it into somewhat even sheets. There's different thickness settings. I usually do mine on the thickest setting, and they come out pretty even. And they look like this here. So that's one sheet, and I made, I believe, 6 more, maybe. I think I made 6. We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 6. That's the part I don't like. It stains my hands. That's why I don't really like colored clay, to be honest. But anyway, so what we're doing is putting that oven baked clay adhesive in the bowl, specifically on the ceramic part. The one thing about ceramic is clay sometimes will slide on it and does not stick. So the oven baked clay adhesive is a lifesaver for that. And this is me putting the clay in. Now the one thing with this type of clay, whenever you put it in the bowl or the mouth or wherever you're doing it, the reason I'm using this specifically and not the other type of clay is I'm accounting for all of the teeth that I'm going to put in. I thought I was not going to be able to reach the back of the mouth to paint it. I was a little bit lucky. You'll see later on in the video that wasn't really a concern. But if you do have colored clay, which a lot of the supplies I get at my local Michael's. You can also get them on Amazon pretty easily as well. If you have a Joann Fabrics or a Hobby Lobby near you, a lot of Sculpey supplies are listed and located there. Sometimes you can have a little bit of a hard time getting certain products. You know, if there's a shortage or if there's just not that much of a, not need, but supply for them at the moment. But generally all my supplies I get at Michael's. Colored clay is something that if you are going to be something like what I'm doing with a lot of teeth, you do want to put the clay in there first before you do anything else. Because once it's baked and you put the teeth in, if you don't have a brush that's small enough to get around, you just don't have a way of painting it, and it could make your piece look a little bit offsetting. That's the reason I'm doing this, and this is honestly, to be fully transparent, this is one of the rare times I've actually used colored clay. I usually just stick with my Super Sculpey Original, which is what I'm pulling out now to put on. So this is the part that usually takes the longest. It's just putting all my layers of clay on the structure. Now with this, I put every piece of clay on there first. I don't detail as I go. I literally get everything covered in the clay that I need it to. And because this does take a little bit, I'll check in here with you in a second. Oh, one more thing too. Notice the 2 holes I have on the side. That was a little bit of an accident, but it also was a way to make sure that the air would go out if it didn't go out the hole in the back. So I'm just putting in some foil in each side. I'm going to put clay on top of that. And I'm going to put back on the clay, and I'll just go ahead and take a break from now. Alright, So this is another step that I'm doing. Now you don't have to do this. It's just a recommendation that I have. And again, I learned this from Asa Clay. He is the channel that I do a lot of my inspiration from. His channel, the Steady Craftsman channel. These are the channels that kind of got me wanting to do stuff like this. So I'd be remiss to at least acknowledge them in my first video. But this is a step that I learned. If you are going to have clay put on an armature that's a thinner wire, if you add a thinner wire to it with the oven baked clay adhesive, it helps the clay stick a little bit better, and again, it prevents it from sliding off. And I did have a shot of me applying the clay, but somehow it got lost in translation. So you see that the clay is already on there, and now I'm just doing my detailing work now. What detailing means is I'm just going through adding little snakes of clay, no pun intended, Ace, I apologize. But I'm adding these ropes of clay to the structure to give it a little bit of a folded look. Again, I want this to look like it's underwater. It spends a lot of its time underwater. So I want it to look kind of, you know, ruffled and, you know, a little bit like that. So we're doing here. And once this is done, I'll go to the next step for you. Alright, so this is actually my favorite step of the whole process, is detailing the eyes. And by detailing, I don't mean detailing, I just mean putting them on so they're actually a part of the structure. So similar to everything else, I just put layers of the Sculpey original on there and put them in place, make sure that they're not sagging, make sure that they're not drooping. Because the ultralight, even though it is lightweight, for certain areas, obviously at the end of a wire, it can droop. So I use the clay to make sure it has some support, so that way when it's baking in the oven, I don't have to worry about one drooping down to the other side. Now I'm going to do a little bit of detailing and give it some eyelids. So I'm doing that for you now. And then I go around and give it another one. I just thought it looked pretty cool. Not just to have one standard eyelid, I just put another layer on it. Now it's time for the mouth. Now the one thing I did off the bat, just to ensure that when the piece is baking, that the pieces and the teeth don't fall apart, I put a few layers of clay in the rim of the mouth. So this is the first layer here that you see. It's Sculpey Original. That's another rope. I put it all around the rim of the mouth. And what I'm doing is making sure that when the teeth go in and it's baking, they don't fall apart. And to reinforce this, I had some alizarin crimson left over that I'm blending with the original to make another rope. And I'm putting that underneath the layer that I just had. Admittedly, I wanted you to be able to see the gums of this creature with the red. So I thought it would give it a nice, really creepy look to it. But admittedly, when you see when I go to paint it and once the teeth are all put in, you actually can't even see it. Now this is another step that I came up with. Well, I should say this too right off the bat. A lot of my ideas I think in my head, but as I'm working it, ideas will just come to me. So the idea I have here, this thing should have a ton. So what I'm doing is I'm detailing the ton with some scrap pieces of armature wire that I had left over. And I'm giving it a really freaky ton. Like super insanely freaky. I don't even know why I came up with this idea for the ton, but what I'm doing is I'm poking in the armature wire to be what I guess you could say would be tendrils on the ton. Biology people help me out here. Is tendrils the right word? Something else maybe? I don't want to say tentacles because everything's tentacles, but anyway, whatever these are, they're being wrapped now with some Sculpey Original. And then I'm going to do some detailing work here later on. So I'll have a wire brush that I used to detail and a few other things. So I'm gonna pause and not talk for a little bit and let you all enjoy the masterpiece that this ton is. And I use that with all the sarcasm in the world because I have no idea where this ton idea came from. Alright, here's that wire brush I told you guys about. Now the thing with the wire brush, don't let it hit your finger. It really, really hurts. I've learned from experience because I'm a dummy. And there's the ton. Like I said, no idea. I don't even know if this is anatomically correct for any sea creature. But it doesn't matter because it's teeth time. Yeah. Now, I do have to put the ton in place first because if I wait till after all the teeth in and put the ton in, I'm going to be a really sad boy because I'd have to take all the teeth out and restart from the beginning. But I don't have to worry about that because I got it in and it actually went in place the very first time. I thought the ton would immediately be a little bit top heavy, but it actually went in and was secure the entire time. So I'm putting in the larger teeth in first. I put 2 on the top and then another set at the bottom. And then once I have those 2 in there, I start to go all the way around the mouth and just, I like to use the phrase summer teeth. I learned this from another channel I follow, North of the Border. Summer teeth means some are here, some are there. There's not really any formal order, especially with creatures. You have a lot of free range to do whatever you want, which is why I like making creatures like this. Realistic things are something I'm personally not comfortable with, but it's something I'm trying to break out my comfort zone. So I'm just putting all the teeth around. This is the first layer of teeth, by the way. I believe this, whatever you call it, SeaBeast, like I said, it ends up having 3 rows of teeth, which, again, I did not math this out. English is not good at this time of night, folks. Bear with me. I didn't map these out as far as how many teeth I would need. I just made a lot, and it literally just panned out where all the teeth I made ended up, I didn't have any extra, which is cool. You know, it's nice that they all went in. So again, I'm still putting the first layer in, putting all of that in. And then it's this next shot, I actually added 1 more layer of the original on there just to give it support to hold all of the teeth in place. So that way, again, there's not any drooping. They're definitely in there and they're good to go. And I just push that in. And this is me adding the final layer of teeth. And like I said, there's learning curves here, folks. Like, hey, the camera's not even, there we go. There you go, you big dummy. There you go. So I'm putting in the last bit of teeth here. And then we'll come back out to let you guys know what I do next. And also, these are very, very sharp, by the way. I pricked my fingers a few times. It did not feel good. Alright, so I'm detailing the tongue now, just to give it a little bit more details. Again, make it look really freaky that it does. And I had a few teeth left over that I used to make, I guess you could say, pinchers on the tongue. And I put a couple on the top. And once these are in place, all the teeth are gone. Every single one. I think there's over 100 in this. Alright, so now I'm going over to the eyes. Now I won't bore you with all the details with this, but essentially I'm just detailing the eyes. Again, I want this thing to look very, very otherworldly, but somehow still is in our ocean. So I'm just going to add some details to these, and I'll let you guys, listen to some music while I'm doing this. Alright, there you go. Now I'm going to add some veins, because why not? So yeah, it's just me adding little ropes of clay down all of the other sides of it. And what you see I do on this side, I mirror the other side. So to save you guys seeing that twice, I'm just going to show you guys this one side of it. And once I have those done, I'm doing the same thing, ropes of clay on the feet. My one friend suggested that these look like something else, and because I don't want being on YouTube my very first video, I will definitely be painting these ASAP later on in the video. But these are feet. Don't try to come at me, YouTube algorithm. These are feet of the creature, very stubby looking feet, and I added some veins here. I add another set of veins, and again, what I do on this one, I mirrored on the other side, so I won't let you guys see it twice. Alright, so last thing I'm doing as far as the mouth goes, I'm making one big boy, and I flattened it out with a roller I have, and I make it a top lip, so that way he doesn't just look like he's all teeth. So I put that on there, I'm just blending it all down the sides, as you can see here. Add a little details as I go. And you probably wondered where these tentacles came from. I had an oopsie, my camera didn't record it. But what it did record is me adding the details to the tentacles, so, that's something, right? Maybe. So yeah, what I'm doing is I'm just adding some details to these tentacles, just to give a little bit of a instructional. The way that I made the tongue is essentially the identical way that I made these tentacles. I just rolled out, I can't talk. I rolled out aluminum foil and I just wrapped them together and put them in. Now what I'm doing here, I thought the eyeballs at the top looked a little bit naked, so I'm punishing myself, and I'm actually doing more with the clay with some scrap wire. And kids, do not do this. Let your parent, guardian, teacher, let someone do it. But what I'm doing is I'm taking my drill and I'm drilling 3 holes, 2 smaller ones for the thinner wire and a larger one for the other one, and I'm punching these in. The good thing about ultralight, which is what the understructure of this is, once it's baked, you can drill in it. It's literally the smoothest thing. Oh, don't drop that. And I'm just pushing these in. And if I wasn't going, what the hell am I making? It's literally, what the hell am I making now? This was something that I totally thought of just as I was doing it, because I just did it like the eyes not having anything on top. And I got super lucky because it fit in my oven and I didn't have to try to lay it on its side or its back, which is common with a lot of my pieces. That's the problem I have. I don't measure anything that I bake, which I need to get in the habit to. The standard type of size that I like to stick to is around 6 to 7 inches as far as the size of a piece that I make. This, if I did it vertical, it would not fit. And like I said, with the things I added at the top, it was a very, very close call, but it got in there and it was baking actually really well. I'll show you guys here later on in the video. What I'm doing here is actually adding some of the final details to the back. I wanted to give it some form of a spine just to connect everything together. And I'm adding some more of these little tentacle things around. Again, my whole goal with this is to up the creep factor. So usually tentacles are very good, and little bumps and warts along the way they do their job. And because I'm petrified normally to be in videos, I'm shedding that. So hi! Okay, that's done. Alright, so what you're seeing now is just a montage shot. I'm just doing final detailing. I'll save you guys the description. You guys can see clearly what I'm doing. And I do this on the feeds, other parts of the thing. So I'll be back here in a few moments with you. Alright, so dummy me, again, have used these all the time, but I did it this time. Yeah, I know, whatever. So, I am going to use it now to spray isopropyl alcohol. Now, what this is, it's a way of taking fingerprints off of your sculpture. Also, clay softener that Sculpey has. Any of the sort is good to remove fingerprints, take them off for you, and leaves you with a really nice smooth base. It also makes sure that when you bake it, it bakes a lot well too. By the way, if you hear a truck in the background right now, it's garbage night on my street, so forgive me. But it's off to bake. Let's go. Alright, so this is my favorite part outside of sculpting, is to bring this thing to life with paint. I use a lot of different brands. I use Apple Barrel because it's more convenient for me to find. Price point is pretty good as well. I do use color shifts from Folk Art, some metallics from Deco Art and Folk Art. And then this is my favorite, it's a Brush Mellow, and this is Black Wash, which I'll go over that whenever it's time to. So what I'm doing here, just to give you guys a shot, is I mix my own colors with these paints. It's something a lot of people do. It's the easiest way to do it. I just blend a few colors together until I get a base of what I'm looking for. I want this to be a lighter blue, not like a darker blue off the get. So I kind of found a middle ground. And one thing that I do have as advice, whenever you paint something, have a base level first, which is what mine is. It helps the color go in quicker, and when you add your detailing, what I mean by detailing, it's called a black wash and dry brushing. It makes the colors really pop. But if you have a dark color off the bat first and then try to dry brush on it, depending on your color, sometimes it doesn't come out well. At least for me. Other people have mastered this, I haven't. And not to save you the obvious, but this is me painting the sculpture this. And once this is all done, I'll go over the next step with it, which is that black washing. One thing too I just want to add when it comes to painting, don't be shocked if you're painting a base white or orange or a lighter yellow, you may have to use a few handful of coats in order for the paint to stick or not bleed through. With this blue, I did have to paint it a few times for the color to stand out. It's common. There's really not a way around it. You can always paint your base fully white. That's usually a good way to give you a base for that. You can definitely do that if you want. I don't like to do that with my sculptures. I haven't really had a need to. Maybe future, just to show you guys what that means, I'll do that for you guys just so you can see it. But after that's painted, what I'm doing now is I'm painting the gums. This did take a while, and again, I don't think things through when I'm sculpting how it's going to take to paint it. I just sculpt and then deal with the consequences later, and this is one of them. I had a few brushes, very small, and I had to go in between all of the teeth and paint the gums this black, which it's just standard black. It's not a blend of any colors. And what I'm doing with the tongue, I want the tongue to kind of stand out just to give it some contrast. So what I did is I blended 3 colors together. It was barn red and off-white and then black, and it gave me this somewhat, I know it looks kind of like peachy, but it's actually a darker red. I just don't know why my color's picking it up. Now this is what's called the black wash. Simply what I can state is the black wash is a way of bringing out the details of your sculpture without having to repaint it just solid black and hope it comes through. What I mean by that is, as you can see on the video, I'm just taking this watered down black paint. For me, I do my own. I use 2 parts water and 1 part black paint and let it water down. And what I do is I dab it on and then I brush it off really quick with a paper towel. You can use your thumb, sponge, anything that you can use to soak up water, you can utilize. And what this is doing is it's going in all of those areas that are recessed, like on the tentacles. It goes into all of those and it brings out the color in more detail for you guys. So as you can see, it brings out the detail, and this is crucial for the next step that I'm going to get into the process for you. It's actually my favorite part. I will say too, black washing is not my favorite step. It is a little bit messy. I've tried to learn ways around it like I'm doing with the paper towel. I just haven't mastered it yet. I am open to tips though. I will say I'm not an expert. I just love doing what I do. So if any of you are experts and have tips, please educate me. I am more than willing to learn, and I do want to get better. So if anyone has any tips or anything that they have, feel free to shout them out. And what this is, the dry brushing, I kind of skipped over a step. So that color is my light base that I'm using. And what I'm doing is I'm dry brushing it all over the sculpture. And it really brings out a lot of the detail. I know you really can't see in the video, it's just because of the blue, I'm presuming. But as you can see in certain areas, it is sticking out a lot. And what I'm doing here is inside the mouth, whenever the process baked, it actually made the inside of the mouth darker than I was hoping. So what I did is I have some metallic red that I'm brushing inside of the mouth just to bring out those details again and let some of it come back to life. And I do brush a lot of this on the base of the tongue as well. I think I brush it on the top of the tongue as well, I think too, just to add some dimension to it. And we're actually nearing completion here, guys. I'm actually really excited about this. I definitely would like to know what you guys think of it as well in the comments. Always, if you can, give me a like. I'm pretty much starting this from scratch, so I don't want to beg for likes or anything off the bat, but any support you guys can give would be appreciated. Now, I didn't get a shot of the bottle, and I apologize, but I will tell you it's called Super Sculpey Satin Glaze. What this is, it's a glaze that once it dries, will give any of the bases that it's put on a sleek look. So I wanted the gums to always essentially look wet. I do put some on the tongue as well. This is also a good thing to help seal in the color so it doesn't fade in the future or anything like that. So I'm just putting this all around, and I do put some in the mouth as well. I actually had to redo the mouth because the paint wasn't dry, so it kind of looked like he had mono, like strep throat in the back of his throat, which I wasn't liking how it looked. So I do let this dry overnight, and then I repaint it and redo the setting again. And I kind of did like how it looked on the gums, so I put some all over the sculpture as well. It really made this look like a sea creature look. I'm actually excited with how this, and this again, full disclosure, the first time I use satin glaze on anything. I'll definitely be using it in the future though. And I'm just doing what's called a dry brush on the base with the colored shift paint. That was what you saw there. And I'm scratching off the paint off the eyes. And I'm letting this all dry. I'm going to bed. Now it's the next day. I think everything looks good, but I want to add one more thing. And I'm using that with its MindofAK. MindofAK is a really nice polymer adhesive that helps fur stick, or like anything like fur, hair stick to a sculpture. But I do want to use it like this for saliva. Now other people use resin of different types. Resin terrifies me, but it is something I'm going to start to use a lot more on the channel just to break out my fear. But for now, I really like how this looked. And it dries really hard, really malleable as well. It won't break. And I think we hit it. We did it, guys. Here's the lights, camera, smaction shots. I always wanted to say that. I do want to say I really appreciate anyone who took the time to watch this video. I'm sorry it was a little bit on the longer end, but I do appreciate all of you. I really mean that for watching this. This is again a new venture for me. I'm going to have some learning curves along the way, but let me know what you think of this guy in the comments. I didn't name him, so if you guys have a name that you think would be a cool name, you know, we could do like a little contest or whatever. Whoever has the best name, you know, that'll be the name forever for it. But I do appreciate you guys. So, like I said, if you can, give me a like, hit the bell icon for future updates, and let me go ahead and get a subscribe for you as well if you wouldn't be so kind. And here's my teaser shot for you guys next week. Let me know what you guys think it might be. And that's it for now. See you guys.